What if I told you there's a city in America where black women aren't just buying mansions, they're building empires inside them? Underground tunnels, indoor bowling alleys, and a closet worth more than your neighborhood. We're counting down how the 10 richest black women in Atlanta live, and trust me, the deeper we go into this list, the more shocking it gets. Number 10. Shereé Gates, the Monster Mansion. Let's kick things off with a woman who turned a beauty blender into a blueprint for generational wealth. Meet Shereé Gates. If you've ever watched Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta, you already know Shereé. But what the cameras don't always capture is just how far this woman has come. Teen mom, got kicked out of her own home, had basically nothing, and then decided to build a multi-million-dollar beauty empire from the ground up. Microblading academies, cosmetic lines, glam squads. She didn't wait for a seat at the table. She went ahead and built the whole restaurant. So when it came time to buy a house, did she go subtle? Did she do something understated? Absolutely not. She bought what she personally calls the Monster Mansion, and that name, completely earned. Now the exact location is kept private. Shereé keeps it that way for security. But what's not private is the sheer scale of this place. Massive columns out front. A motor court that looks like it was built to park a fleet of luxury SUVs, and that's just the greeting. Step inside and you've got high-gloss floors, crystal chandeliers in every single room, and a kitchen that is permanently camera-ready. Because for Shereé, the home is also a set. Every wall is a potential backdrop for a brand deal. Every surface is a revenue opportunity. But here's what really lands the monster on this list. The entrepreneurial angle. She didn't just buy a house to live in, she bought a headquarters to operate from. We're talking about enough square footage to host live training seminars for her microblading academy. The living room doubles as a boardroom. The backyard? A resort-style pool where she throws the kind of poolside events that make reality TV producers genuinely excited to show up to work. This is a woman who once had nothing, looking out over a kingdom she paid for, every single brick, with her own hands. And that energy, that hunger, that's the Atlanta way. The Monster Mansion is exactly the right place to start this countdown. And if you think that's impressive, just wait. Because next up, we're talking about a woman who doesn't just own property. She owns an entire lifestyle that's been Atlanta certified for over 2 decades. Number 9. Rasheeda Frost, or the Boss Chick Estate. From new money hunger to established long-game power, welcome to Rasheeda Frost's world. Rasheeda is genuinely an institution in this city, 2 decades deep in Atlanta's social and cultural fabric. Rapper, fashion mogul, restaurateur, reality TV staple. She and her husband Kirk have outlasted trends, scandals, and a whole lot of people who bet against them. And their home reflects that. Not flash, foundation. The Frost estate sits somewhere in the upscale suburbs. The Camp Creek or Cascade Corridor, a part of Atlanta famous for concentrating serious black wealth. It's a multi-story structure that blends traditional Southern architecture with a modern sensibility. But the real story here isn't the architecture, it's the land. Because in a city that's densifying faster than you can say gentrification, having actual acreage is the ultimate power move. And reports suggest the Frosts have access to serious land, some even whispering about a 60-acre compound situation in Atlanta. Let that sink in. Inside, the home is exactly what you'd expect from a woman who runs multiple boutiques and a whole restaurant. The great room has soaring ceilings and massive windows, pulling in that Georgia sunlight. The kitchen, and this is important, has commercial-grade appliances. Because family meetings and business strategy sessions happen here simultaneously. It's a workspace disguised as a home. And then there's the closet. As a fashion icon who literally runs her own clothing boutiques, Rasheeda's closet isn't a closet. It's a personal archive of Atlanta hip-hop fashion history, organized by color, brand, and accessory type. If you ever get invited inside, you better appreciate the privilege. The outdoor space is built for the full Frost family lifestyle. ATVs, dirt bikes, big country vibes just minutes from the city. This is what it looks like when wealth becomes a way of living, not just a flex. Next up, we have a woman on this list who bought a house and completely dismantled it, on purpose. Because when you have the juice, you get to pour it exactly how you want. Number 8. Marlo Hampton. The Hamptons. I may not have a peach, but I have the juice. That line alone should tell you everything about Marlo Hampton. For years, Marlo was the perpetual friend of the show on Real Housewives of Atlanta, always in the orbit, always delivering the most cutting, perfectly timed reads, and always leaving the question open. But where does she live? Well, she answered that question quite loudly. She calls it the Hamptons, and she didn't buy a move-in-ready mansion. She bought a project, a massive, somewhat dated estate that she gutted from the ground up and rebuilt as a high-contrast, black-and-white temple to high fashion. The renovation was fully documented. Hard hats, contractor arguments, the whole dramatic Atlanta homeowner experience. But the result is nothing short of a statement. The foyer alone stops you dead in your tracks. Sweeping staircase, bold decor, the feeling of walking into a Chanel boutique lobby, and that's by design. Marlo's whole brand is elevated fashion, and her home is just a larger version of her outfit. But the real showstopper? The closet. She calls it l'archive, and it is not, I repeat, not a closet. It's a climate-controlled museum, millions of dollars worth of designer pieces, all meticulously housed. Fendi furs on racks, Birkin bags on shelves, Alexander McQueen shoes behind glass. This woman converted a serious chunk of her home's square footage into a personal fashion institution. That's not shopping. That's curation. She also has a full glam room, shampoo bowls, salon chairs, the works. Because for Marlo, looking perfect is part of the business model, and the home supports the business. The Hamptons might not be the biggest house on this list, but it is arguably the most intentional. Every inch of it is an extension of who she is. From fashion archives to design masterpieces, our next entry is proof that sometimes the ugliest house on the street becomes the most talked about one. And it was built by a woman who does everything on her own terms. Number 7. Kenya Moore. Moore Manor. Let's talk about spite architecture. Because Moore Manor might be the most beautifully petty construction project in Atlanta's history. Kenya Moore, former Miss USA, Real Housewives villain-turned-fan favorite, bought a property in Sandy Springs that was, by most accounts, basically a teardown. A distressed, haunted house-looking structure in the woods that people laughed at when she announced the purchase. She paid a reported $515,000 for it. Critics did not hold back. Kenya held back nothing either. She acted as her own general contractor. She rebuilt it from the bones up. And the result? A modern glass masterpiece now valued at over $2.5 million. Not bad for the house everyone said was a mistake. What makes Moore Manor architecturally distinct is that it refused to follow the traditional Southern mansion playbook. While her neighbors were doing columns and brick and classic facades, Kenya went full modern Miami. Steel, concrete, and floor-to-ceiling glass panels. The driveway alone is dramatic, steep and sweeping, leading up to this sharp, angular structure that looks like it belongs on a design magazine cover. Inside, it's all polished concrete floors, white marble, minimal furniture, sculptural pieces. Clean, cold in the best possible way. The kitchen has top-tier German appliances and quartzite countertops that Kenya will tell you, unprompted, are superior to marble. The bathroom is next level. Computerized toilet, a spa-grade shower system. She designed it specifically to be a space where, and this is a real quote, she could twirl all day, which honestly is a valid design criterion. And the back of the house? Almost entirely glass, sitting on a hill overlooking a dense forest. Private, stunning, and completely unlike anything else around it. Moore Manor is a flex, disguised as a home. But the next mansion on our list? That's a 15,000 square foot fortress that became a battleground. And the woman inside it didn't flinch for a second. Number 6. Porsha Williams. The Pampered Palace. Porsha Williams has had one of the wildest arcs in Atlanta television history. From princess to activist to, right now, the woman holding down a 15,000 square foot Mediterranean fortress while navigating a very public divorce. And she hasn't moved an inch. The mansion she's been occupying, located in a prestigious golf community in the Sandy Springs area, is what I'd describe as maximalism with a hotel complex budget. The exterior alone sets the tone. Terracotta roof, stucco walls, a motor court that genuinely looks like you're arriving at a resort. It's the kind of house that makes you slow down when you drive past it. Inside, there's a 2-story great room with a Juliet balcony overlooking the living space. Chandeliers the size of small cars. Columns that seem unnecessary but feel completely necessary at the same time. Everything in this house is scaled up. It's a home built to command. Double kitchen islands, a breakfast nook that overlooks the pool, a cigar room, a full home theater, an outdoor entertainment area that looks like a poolside venue in Vegas. But here's what makes this mansion genuinely next level. What happened inside it during Porsha's divorce. Following her split from Simon Guobadia, Porsha didn't quietly retreat somewhere smaller and more manageable. She stayed. She filmed her reality TV comeback from those halls. She held that space. The mansion became less of a house and more of a throne room. A statement that regardless of what was happening in her personal life, the property and the power it represented, that was hers. Okay, we're at the halfway point, and things are about to get a whole lot more global. Because our next entry is a Bronx girl who took one look at Atlanta and said, "This is exactly where I'm building my family compound." Number 5. Cardi B. The Dominican Palace. Cardi B is from the Bronx. She will tell you this every chance she gets. But when it came time to build a family kingdom, a real, permanent, generational home, she and Offset didn't go back to New York. They went to Atlanta, and they went large. In 2019, they purchased a 22,000 square foot estate in the Buckhead and Sandy Springs area for nearly $5.8 million. 22,000 square feet. Let me give you some context. That's roughly the size of a small hotel, and it looks the part too. The architecture is European-inspired, a French chateau style that somehow landed perfectly in the middle of the Georgia pines. Symmetrical facade, massive columns, a grand front staircase. From the outside, it reads like old money from a country that doesn't quite exist. Inside, this is where it gets interesting. This house has a gun range, a dedicated indoor gun range for target practice. Celebrity security at this level requires a different kind of thinking, and this estate is built to accommodate it. That alone puts it in a separate category from almost everything else on this list. The kitchen is a masterpiece of old-world craftsmanship. Intricate wood cabinetry, a range hood that looks like a fireplace, marble everywhere, enough counter space to genuinely feed an army. And yes, Cardi has actually filmed herself in this kitchen trying to crack crab legs, surrounded by millions of dollars of marble. Very on-brand. The backyard is a private resort. Infinity pool with a treetop view, outdoor fireplaces, terraces, manicured gardens, full privacy from every angle. There's also a wine cellar, which I'm choosing to believe is stocked entirely with very expensive champagne. This mansion represents what Atlanta offers that nowhere else in America really can. The ability to get 22,000 square feet and a gun range for what would buy you a moderately sized apartment in Beverly Hills. We're in the top 4 now, and the next one breaks the mold completely. Because sometimes the most luxurious thing money can buy isn't square footage, it's silence. And a lake view. Number 4. Cynthia Bailey. Lake Bailey. Cynthia Bailey's home is the only one on this list that makes you want to breathe differently when you see it. And that's exactly the point. After her divorce from Peter Thomas, Cynthia bought a home that sits directly on a lake in the Sandy Springs area. She called it Lake Bailey, named it after herself, because when you buy your piece with your own money, you earn the naming rights. And this property is piece made physical. Most Atlanta mansions are landlocked, surrounded by privacy fences and dense tree lines. Cynthia's home looks out over actual water. The back of the house opens up to multi-level decks descending to a private dock. The interior is model chic and completely intentional. Clean lines, white furniture, high ceilings, massive windows framing the lake like it's a living painting. And yes, there are large photos of herself on the walls. She's a supermodel. It would be weird if there weren't. The standout addition is what she calls the massage deck, a dedicated outdoor wellness space she built purely for relaxation. And then there's the dock. Cynthia can literally take a boat out from her backyard. She hosts parties on the water. In a city that is famous for traffic that will genuinely ruin your entire afternoon, having a quiet, private waterfront property isn't just luxury. It's sanity. Lake Bailey made this list not because of its square footage or its price tag. It made the list because of what it represents. A woman who walked away from a complicated chapter, bought herself a sanctuary with her own money, named it after herself, and turned it into one of the most iconic real estate brands in the entire Housewives universe. All right, top 3. And from here on out, we are in a different stratosphere. Next up is a house that literally took 5 years to build, and the woman who built it had to survive an entire internet's worth of mockery to get there. Number 3. Shereé Whitfield. Chateau Shereé. If there is one house that has defined the entire Atlanta mansion conversation for the last decade, it is this one, Chateau Shereé, the legend, the 5-year saga, the event. Shereé Whitfield didn't just build a house, she built a storyline. Located in Sandy Springs, practically within arm's reach of Kenya Moore, which is deeply funny if you know their history, the chateau is a massive limestone estate that Shereé envisioned as something rivaling the great estates of Europe. And despite financial delays, contractor drama that played out on national television, and an internet full of people calling her backyard just dirt and dust, she finished it. And they were eating every word. 10,000 square feet of Grand Dame energy. Custom iron front doors that open into a foyer with 20-foot ceilings. Chandeliers dripping from every surface. Heavy grays and silvers everywhere. The kitchen is a massive white marble situation where Shereé reportedly drinks her She by Shereé, branded water with full ceremony. But here's the feature that separates Chateau Shereé from everything around it on this list. The basement. Because Shereé didn't build a man cave down there. She built a nightclub. We're talking a full spa with a sauna and massage tables, a movie theater, and a proper dance floor that looks like a VIP section at a Vegas club. All underground, all private, all utterly over the top and completely wonderful. The backyard became its own saga, years of it being unfinished while the internet made memes. But Shereé eventually completed a full landscaping overhaul, installing a pool and gardens that finally matched the grandiosity of the house above them. Chateau Shereé lands at number 3, not just because of what it looks like, but because of what it cost to build it. Not just financially, but psychologically. She was mocked relentlessly, and she built the palace anyway, on her own terms. And the final 2 spots belong to women who aren't just wealthy. They're building something that outlasts them, starting with a woman who turned vegan burgers into a real estate empire. Number 2, Pinky Cole. The vegan empire. Pinky Cole doesn't operate the way most people on this list operate. She didn't get famous on a reality show first. She didn't ride a music career into real estate. She built a food truck, then a restaurant, then a national empire, then she bought the block. The founder of Slutty Vegan, Pinky, and her husband Derek Hayes, who runs Big Dave's Cheesesteaks, because yes, the 2 biggest names in Atlanta's food scene are married to each other, have been making real estate moves that are genuinely next level. Not just in terms of the homes they're buying, but in terms of the strategy behind those purchases. Reports indicate they've acquired a major estate that functions as a family compound. But the real flex isn't the property itself. It's that Pinky and Derek have been buying up commercial and residential real estate in their own neighborhoods. Not to flip it and cash out, to hold it. To ensure that as Atlanta gentrifies at a pace that has displaced entire communities, the people who built this city can still afford to live in it. That is a completely different level of thinking. The home itself reflects the Pinky Cole brand, modern luxury with a conscious edge, enough land to host community events, a library where she works on her business books. The interior is reportedly a mix of contemporary design and African art, a home that is simultaneously a sanctuary and a headquarters. She lands at number 2 because she represents the future of what Black wealth in Atlanta actually looks like when it's being deployed with intention. She's not just collecting assets, she's building infrastructure. She signs the front of the check. And now we're at number 1. The woman who didn't just buy a mansion, she bought the mansion next door, connected them underground, and built a world so complete that she never has to leave it. Number 1, Kandi Burruss, the underground compound. Kandi Burruss is not just a housewife, and she'll be the first to tell you that. She is a Grammy-winning songwriter who wrote some of the biggest pop records of the last 2 decades. She's a restaurateur, a Broadway producer, a serial entrepreneur. And her compound in the Cascade area of Southwest Atlanta is the physical embodiment of what happens when that level of ambition gets to build itself a home. The main house alone is extraordinary. We're talking indoor pool, as in a full pool inside the house. There's a red piano room that has become genuinely iconic. The master bedroom sits on a raised platform with a bed that looks less like furniture and more like a throne. The kitchen is restaurant grade, which tracks for the woman who owns Old Lady Gang, one of Atlanta's most beloved dining spots. There's a theater, a spa, multiple wings that seem to keep multiplying. But here's the part that gets people talking. Kandi didn't just renovate her main estate, she bought the property next door, and then, allegedly, connected the two properties with an underground tunnel. An underground tunnel linking her home to a guest house entertainment complex that includes a bowling alley, a full recording studio, and a wellness center. A bowling alley, inside her guest house. Why? Because Kandi Burruss built an empire and then built a world to live inside it. The compound is constantly evolving. She's always adding something, a new wing, a new amenity, a new layer to what is already the most complete private compound in Atlanta's residential landscape. She has everything she needs within those gates: food, entertainment, work, wellness, family, business. It's not a house, it's a jurisdiction. And that's why she's number one, not just because of the square footage or the tunnel or the bowling alley, though all of those things are doing a lot of heavy lifting. But because Kandi Burruss built everything you see from scratch, with talent and relentless work, and then poured every bit of it into a compound that will stand long after the hit records stop playing. And that's a wrap on how the richest black women in Atlanta live. Which one of these lifestyles got you? And which mansion had you reconsidering your entire life plan? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And if you haven't subscribed to Black Status yet, you're literally leaving content on the table. Hit the bell, because we're just getting started.